did I say Tuesday? Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time and Thursday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern time. But Monday nights, I'm going to be joined by a very good friend of mine, basically a neighbor and a good time friend, a good friend of the project for many years, Mr. Sam McGilligan. Wow. All right. Well, okay. We'll start from the beginning. Welcome to Scouching Live. We always knew there was going to be technical difficulties with multiple people in the room. So if you don't know, Sam McGilligan. Sorry.
Hello.
Hello, Sam McGilligan. Sam has been a longtime friend. He's basically a neighbor of mine, a longtime supporter of the project, and a very smart guy overall. So everybody, please welcome him to the show. Monday nights he will be here. Thursday afternoons at 2 p.m. will just be me, just moving forward. But Scouching has returned. It is scouching.ca is back and better than ever. So you can check out the website. You can subscribe there. There's lots of data tools, and Sam is part of that new edition. Now, for the missing audio, before we get into the show,
My
missing
bad.
audio, you can blame our new producer, Mr. AJ Jadaro.
I'm sorry, chat.
I pitched him as a former Sportsnet intern, and right away drops the ball, but that's okay.
I even got the day wrong on the info video, so that's always
your
fun.
Your mic is way too far away from you there, buddy. You ever used a microphone before?
I haven't used one of these.
Okay. We're going to figure out the whole audio setup thing, but don't worry about it. This, we're troubleshooting live a little bit. But anyway,
making up as we go.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But anyway, welcome, Sam, to the show. It's lovely to have you. I have some important questions to ask before we get into the actual hockey questions. I need to know what your favorite ice cream flavor is.
Honestly, I'm a big fan of strawberry.
Wow. Strawberry.
What's wrong with that?
I mean,
you look like you were expecting a different answer. What's wrong with strawberry?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I figured fruit ice creams, there's a little bit more diversity that, like, it's like who gets a thing of Neapolitan ice cream and just eats the red one?
Nobody, but that's why they would
weirdos, absolute weirdos.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, okay, fine. I guess strawberry is an acceptable answer as long as it's, I don't know, what's a bad ice cream flavor? I can't really think of any.
Mint. I'm not a fan of mint.
Oil.
Mint. Okay.
Oil flavored.
Oil. Okay, yeah. So if you get a barrel of oil turned into ice cream, that probably wouldn't taste very good. All right. Well, what about potato chips? I just
salt and vinegar.
Salt and God damn. All right. Well, now I know. Now I know who I can share salt and vinegar with, because you are not. That's not my jam. Anyway. Well, welcome everybody. And I had one more question. Sam. Have you ever broken a computer by putting a USB stick into it?
Twice.
Sam McGilligan, everybody.
Twice.
That seems like an oddly specific and pointed question to embarrass Sam.
Yes. Sorry, 1 second. We just got a note that is it me? Someone mentioned the off-frame guy. I'm not sure if that's me or Sam. It looks like me because I'm not. I don't know. If
it might be me who is not in the shot.
Okay, so you're very loud, so you might want to turn down whatever microphone.
Alrighty, I will turn myself down.
Just FYI. But anyway, so we already have a question. I think I just saw it. It's a positive. It's a positive one for you to see you back. Pierre, what's his name? Pierre Olivier. He knows you. You were trying to defend Michkov against Leo Carlson in a Locked On Sharks video, and you were on his side. Glad to see him back. I don't know. This is an interesting topic to start the show with, since, I mean, again, part of the idea of the new project is we want to have more of an NHL slant, but also focused on the youngsters that we've been watching for quite a few years. Now, Leo Carlson has been in the NHL off and on, mostly on this year. I don't know if you've seen much of Leo Carlson and Matvei Michkov this year.
I've seen a bit of both.
Yes. So it's already kind of fascinating to look back on the guys that went, just recently in the last draft. Obviously you've got Connor Bedard, you've got Adam Fantilli, but people were kind of surprised to see Leo Carlson go at number 2. Now, this could just be me speaking, but I get the feeling that Leo Carlson does not look at all out of place in the NHL. No. And I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I've seen Michkov in the KHL as well, but I think we can already kind of tell that group at the top was a lot I think a lot closer than a lot of people kind of let on.
Yeah.
Granted, Sam McGilligan, unfortunately, in his mind, is a Montreal Canadiens fan. How are you coping? Are you okay?
I gave up long ago, my friend.
Okay, so
I gave up long ago.
So you've moved past it. You've come to terms with it.
Yes.
Because I
One
watched
has to.
I watched a bit of our boy David Reinbacher. I mean, he's still David Reinbacher.
I haven't. I've
Yeah.
gone out of my way to make sure that's like the one I haven't really followed up with, just mostly because I don't want to. I'd like to be like naively optimistic about things. I mean, he's got a
Sure.
lot of strengths that I can see working out in the NHL, not like fifth overall strengths, but strengths. And I mean, at this point, the only thing I can do is like kind of be in his corner. But
Right.
right now, it's still fresh because the draft was, only we're still in the year 2023. I mean, right? So
It is
like,
true.
We're talking about Matvei Michkov kind of going on a tear right now. I was a big Zach Benson fan. Seeing him in the NHL right now is a bit of a
Yeah.
wound, to say the least. Like things like that. Yeah, I'd rather not watch David Reinbacher. Somebody
My
drop a mic.
apologies. I literally dropped the mic. Can you believe it? Anyway, let's get that out of the way. Zach Benson was an interesting one you mentioned. Someone mentioned him in the comments that he is a quote complete dog.
He is a complete dog.
Now I think I would agree with that. Where did he go? He went what 16th, 13th? And who were the names that went before him? Because again, like
Boo went at 12.
Yeah.
Simishev went at 6, actually. I was going to say him.
Right. So
Ryan Leonard went at where did
Ryan
Washington
Leonard
pick?
went to 8 to Washington. You've got you got Reinbacher at 5, Simishev 6, Michkov 7, Leonard 8, Danielson 9, Dalibor Dvorsky 10, Tom Willander 11, Daniil Butt 12, and Zach Benson at 13. Now, I am wearing an Arizona Coyotes jersey. If anyone's listening to the audio-only version, I'm wearing the Arizona Coyotes reverse retro, which is beautiful, number one. Number two, I will defend those first-round picks they made. I went on Locked On Coyotes and defended them pretty much immediately. I mean, I feel like Daniil Butt's going to be a thing. I watched a bit of him in the KHL in the lead up to the reboot of this project, and he looks also kind of Zach Benson looks like a dog in one way. Daniil Butt
is a dog in an entirely different way.
Yes, exactly, and it's going to be very interesting to see how those things pan out. But I am also wearing an Arizona Coyotes jersey tonight because I am, as of this season, an Arizona Coyotes stan. I guess you could, if that's what the kids say. I don't really know. Again, in the research leading up to this, I've become indignant and insufferable about Quinton Byfield.
Yes.
I think you're in that boat as well.
100%.
Yes. So he's been glorious and sick to the point where I've mounted his jersey on the wall behind Sam. If you don't know as well, Matthew Beniers is next to him there. I don't think you can see it in camera, but it is there. Matthew Beniers, number 10 for the Seattle Kraken. Because these are the boys we've stand over the years, and here we are. But anyway, back to Zach Benson. He's really been something with the Buffalo Sabres. I've watched him here and there. And again, it just it's another example to me that's been very interesting to watch over the years of yeah, you can criticize a kid for not being the biggest guy in the world, but gosh darn it, when you just see a guy go over the boards and just go
nonstop,
just go and play at a high pace of play, it's such a interesting thing for me to watch these kids. And you and I both, I think, agree that pace is important.
It's everything,
because the NHL is kind of on an island of its own these days, especially having watched a lot of NHL hockey through the beginning part of this season. It's been very, very interesting to see the importance of that trait that a player like Zach Benson has. Not saying that the guys ahead of him don't have it, but you can do a lot of damage by hitting the ground running, playing that style of play.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think there's going to be. I mean, you don't want to take victory laps again, like you said. It's still 2023.
It's way too. I'm not even comfortable victory lapping my 2020 draft team.
Yes, exactly.
It's
exactly.
Still too early.
It is. But yeah, I mean, he's just been a fascinating one. I mean, again, in a way, I'm a little surprised he made the team, at all. But
Yeah, I'm surprised he made the team in this sense of like none of us who were fans of him were even projecting him to be in the NHL this year. But at the same time, anybody who's was a fan of him and watched him and is seeing him now are just going, "Well, yeah, okay, just it makes sense. He's never once ever behind the pace of play in any level he plays at. He reads and moves in sync with his teammates and
Yeah.
just understands when and timing, when space is going to open up, what actions cause a defender to move a certain way, and he's just getting so much better and better so quickly at those little details that the NHL have. Just everything is executed at that blinding pace.
Yeah, and I think that that's such an important trait, that, you know, again, it just for me at least, it reinforces what to like just that thing to look for, that, you know, that next level of quick thinking. You know, it doesn't, again, it's not speed, right? Like it's not
No,
quickness, it's not speed, it's not skill. It's like how those things come together and how you play at, you know, a very rapid pace of play. um Speaking of pace of play, we have a question stemming from someone who I assume is coming out of Russia about thoughts on the two boys from Nizhny Novgorod, Mr. Anton Silayev and Nikita Artemanov. We could, dude, we could just sit here and talk for 2 hours about Anton Silayev. I think if we really wanted to, we shouldn't, but we could. I I know what I think about him. I know you've seen him a little bit here and there. What's a 15-second rundown of your understanding of Anton Silayev? Because I think he's one of the most fascinating players in the
I
entire
don't
class.
understand it. It's like, that's my 15-second rundown, is that I
Yeah.
genuinely don't understand it. I mean, everybody was kind of going nuts on the point streak earlier in the year. It reminded me a bit of like the Joakim Kamel point streak to start the year a few years ago.
Yep.
It's just a lot of fortunate things happening in his favor.
Yep.
But like, remove the points, it's still, you know, what is he, 6'7" or something?
Yeah,
6'6",
I think
6'7"
so,
or
yeah.
something. So he's a gigantic monster. He moves well for being his, you know, aforementioned gigantic monster.
Yeah.
And he's gonna look extremely raw when he's handling the puck or executing anything at pace, because he's 6'7" and
Yeah.
he's only 18 years old. Like, you
Well-
can only learn so much in terms of like high pace athletic control until you're doing it for years, and he's just getting to that stage now. So he's just like, the potential is sky high, but the ceiling is extremely low, and it's gonna have to be like a full year of measuring his progression to see what's up.
Yeah, I largely agree. Largely get it, because he's large. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, Sam is about what, 6'5"? You're tall, 6'4.5". Okay.
Something like that.
And I think we talked about this a little while ago about how like uncoordinated you were for a long time.
Yeah, like, and it was like this, not just me. It's like most people I've talked to who have also had those like crazy growth spurts that kind of came out of nowhere. It's like 13, 14, 12 years old. You could just, your arm is your arm, and then suddenly, like a year and a half later, your arm is your arm, but now there's like a half of an extra arm on top of it, and
Right.
your elbow's not where it was, and you're like, why can't I you're knocking stuff over, you're clumsy, and this doesn't just go for your arm, it's like your whole body. Your hip doesn't know how to help your legs the same way when you're moving, and everything is out of sync and out of balance. I tore my knee within like 6 months of my growth spurt because I didn't know how to pivot properly, and I just popped my knee out of place. It was like, it's ugly, and that's like me, who is not special athletically whatsoever. But even for like these hyper athletes, it's like, to play a game in the KHL level, like Anton Silayev, while still kind of like, he's comfortable now, like he knows obviously the length of his arm and all that stuff, but like the fine details are still like, it takes years to get this stuff. I'm still picking up new little tricks here and there sometimes, man.
You say you're not special and athletic, but I think you're special. You may not be athletic, but you're special.
I have the athleticism of a rock. Thank you.
Rocks can do stuff in sports, I guess, you know. They make good sumo wrestlers, I suppose. Anyway, Anton Silayev, yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend forever on him, but we definitely could. But your 2-second summary of him, of I don't understand, absolutely makes sense to me. He's going to be an interesting one, like, because he's a guy where I think he's going to be lower on my board than most people will have him, but that's because I just don't like uncertainty. Like, with a really, really high draft pick, I don't really like the idea of like, well, this guy's got tools, but like, just because he's tall and gangly, like in 5 or 6 years, he's going to grow into it and figure it out. It's just a matter of like, patience, I guess, with him. But with him, I've seen the same sort of things that I've seen with a lot of bigger players at the high end of the draft in the last few years, like with Reinbacher. Juracek was like this, where when push comes to shove, literally in the defensive end, when push comes to shove, he's losing a lot. And yeah, he's playing grown men, but he is still, 6'7", over, I think, 200 pounds already. And so there's, there's a good set of feet under him. There's a decent set of hands, and he's really tall.
What can you do with it?
Exactly. Like, could he become, is he Tyler Myers one day? Well, I mean, I think that's not giving him enough of a runway to sort of transform into something.
Could be more, but
Could
he
be.
also could easily go down the Tyler Myers path, the Rasmus Ristolainen path,
Yeah.
the players of that archetype. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that's the nice, exciting part of him is the runway right now. But you only need to go back 1 year to find an elite KHL defenseman.
Yeah, it's true.
Just denying every attack coming his way in Simashev.
And that's an interesting point, because when I see Dmitry Simashev, I see sort of what Salayev is, just not playing on the power play. Although when I saw Simashev last year, he was basically similar to Salayev, similar skater, but a much better defender, and wasn't getting power play time. Wasn't the fastest guy in a straight line, but neither is Salayev. And so to me, it's just like, I had Simashev really high last year. And anyway, in any case, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the year. I've got a couple of games queued up for him that I haven't seen yet, but again, I don't understand. Artemanov, on the other hand,
I love him.
He's a really talented player.
I love him.
Really, really talented player. He's one of these guys. I don't know if you have the same impression, but like when I watch him, it's just like, oh, that's the right thing to do
every time.
It's like, oh, okay, that's a good play. That's a good play. Oh, I appreciate the effort you put on the, very, very much that over and over.
My first game I watched of his was with, I was told to watch him by Dylan from Elite Prospects.
Yeah.
So I went and I watched him, and I came away and thinking, that was one of the best viewings I've seen of anybody all year long, without a question of doubt. Then I watched a few more, and I have never strayed from that thought. I've seen 3 or 4 games, and he's like one of 2 European guys I've actually seen 4 games on or so. Right?
Yeah.
Now. And he's like, I'm watching, and I'm like, wow, you just do everything right all the time, playing at a men's pace, no issue. It's like, it goes back to that Benson thing we were talking about earlier. It's like, you can have all the tools in the world, but pace of play matters most. Just making fast decisions, the right pace of play. The guy who's kind of closest to that this year, obviously not Benson, but who is Benson, would be Nikita Artemanov. Man, every time I see it, I don't know if I'm alone in this yet. I haven't really been paying too much attention to like what some of the other lists are saying online, but like when I watched him from day one and till today, he has never been outside of my top 7 for the draft.
Yeah, I mean, he's not
insane.
Yeah, he's not there for me, but I did see a question shortly after this one about the Russians of like, what are our thoughts on the draft anyway? Like, just in general. And I don't know. I don't really like saying that drafts are bad or good, but this one is gonna be weird. Like,
it's a weird draft. I think that's the right way to put it.
Like I have a few guys at the front who I think are very talented, very good, nice fundamentals to build on, and that includes Macklin Celebrini. But then there's just like, I don't know, 30 guys, 20 or 30 players who were, it's like
a huge open pit this year. Past like, there's like 5 or 6 solid, like, what they're going to be in the NHL and the reliable players. There's about 10 guys past that who are varying degrees of interesting.
Yeah.
Some people might not even have them in that category of I don't find them interesting. That's just myself personally. And then there's like 50 guys who are like all just in a blender of like, I don't even know how to do tiers this year, because past like the top 15, the tier could very well go on to like almost the end of the second round.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of names. It's a lot of the same names are being mentioned. And then there's just like a lot of guys who are not being talked about who are playing at the same level. I'm so curious what the end of year lists look like.
I know. It's going to be fun. I mean, I don't know if I would call it a fun group of players to watch all the time, but there's interesting ones. Like even guys that I'm sort of penciling in like a high second round pick. I'm going, okay, like I could see something
Yeah.
interesting out of this guy. And like there are some guys where I do believe in a case of like, yeah, you draft them in and stash them away and let them develop. A guy someone mentioned in the comments, Kieran Walton. I don't know if you've seen him.
Not a whole
Uh,
lot. Just the name.
Yeah, he's a gigantic Sudbury guy, and you know, just a really, really, really skilled big man, but like there's not he's very raw. That's really it. And I think that those are the types of players where there's a lot of those where it's like, oh, there's something interesting here, but it's not there yet. Um
Yeah.
someone else shouted out in the comments that the new season of Survivor is awesome, and I don't think you're a watcher of Survivor recently.
not.
It is phenomenal. This new season, they went up to 90-minute episodes from 60. Best season in years. It's amazing. Um, are you struggling?
No.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
But and then also someone in that same comment, and a reason I'm highlighting it not only for Survivor is because they mentioned Kenta Izagai, who is finally popping off.
Oh yeah, he is.
He is finally popping off. They're giving him ice time. They're putting him on the power play. They're doing a bunch of stuff with him in Wenatchee. I went and watched him again because I'm just like even surpassing my expectations of him because I think he has points on like 40% of Wenatchee's goals and they're pretty good this year.
Oh, I didn't know he was like
He's
popping off like.
he's popping.
that.
He's popping hard.
Okay.
Let me just double check that I'm right here because I don't want to make a fool of myself for the yeah, 38.5%. He's got 31 points in 23 games so far. Not bad. And I'm watching him, and he's still Kenta Izagai, still the same guy, fast, hard worker, gets to the net, just not selfish.
Doesn't overcomplicate anything.
Yeah. Like, does he get drafted? Well, he's not 6 feet, so probably not. But I mean, an AHL deal next year, I don't see that as out of the question, and you leave him there for X number of years.
Yeah, I mean,
And
just why not?
Yeah, just
There's tons of dart throws you can make every year, but very few actually carry legitimate like NHL upside.
yeah. And I mean, being the second I believe Japanese player like born and raised to play in the NHL would not be so bad, especially after riding that bike for so many years for me because I've really liked him for quite a few years. Someone also mentioned something just about the new Scouching platform in general, so I just want to address that really quick. About getting data and insight offered by the consulting company that I've now started, or if it's just data visualization. So if you pay for the partner tier, you will get access to the Excel sheets that I provide. So prospects for every team, draft prospects. So just a giant list of players eligible for the draft. You'll get access to my rankings as they change over the year. But the hand tracked data and any data packages and anything like that that would normally go into the Scouching report videos, that's a consulting job. So that's separate. But all the data tools and everything will be on the site. And I'll be making like a visualization tool to sort of take some of that track data and present it in a way that makes sense. So that will be coming in the future. I just don't have enough games tracked yet to get into that. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. What else do we have here? Someone asked about Dalibor Dvorsky. What were our thoughts in his draft year, and have we seen him this year? I
haven't really seen him a whole much this year.
I watched him in Sweden at the beginning of the year, and he was bad. And last year, we both have our thoughts on him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that top 10 was optimistic for him.
I thought he was going to go to Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, like you knew he was going to go high, but yeah, I don't know. Like he's going to be interesting because he's a really good case study of guys who show really well against junior players, but you immediately see why they're limited against men.
Yes.
He's a really good case study of that.
Pace is honestly a huge part of it.
Bad.
Like, pace is just going to be the word of the stream, but like a huge part of his pace of play. And in June, you can get away with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like he just shot quality is really good. But against men, when I watched him last year, he would cross the offensive blue line, and before he even hits the faceoff circles, he's popping it on net.
Yeah.
And you're not going to score at that level that way. It's just not going to happen. But I mean, again, long runway, you got a lot of time. He has scored against players in Sudbury, but it's not the same in my view.
If anything, I'll say this: it's like it's not a bad thing, obviously, that he's scoring with Sudbury, because that would just be an absurd statement to make. But like, you're hoping that the guy who's already played pro for a full season, who is kind of not doing the best when he started this year, when he came over, he started to score again. If he wasn't scoring against players at the OHL level, you'd be like, okay, well, that's really not good.
Right.
Whereas, like, okay, he's scoring and things like this. Don't go crazy with it, but just like, it is expected.
And I know there's been like, I think there was an article about why he left Sweden, and I think it's like a confidence issue now. Like, he just didn't really he wasn't getting played a lot. He wasn't getting power play time. And it just wasn't working out for him, unfortunately. But and I think just getting his confidence back will help a lot. So we'll see. I don't know. That's it, really. It's again, it's still 2023, but we'll see. So there's a few Habs questions, because you're a Habs guy here. They're not all taking the pee on you, but people are asking about Slavkovsky here and there.
Let's do it.
And he's an interesting one too.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've been watching him with the Habs a bit this year, and I think he's better than he was last year. He's better.
But that's because he wasn't good last year.
He was okay. Yeah. What do you think what is it? Because a lot of people say that he's been better, and I'm curious what you think specifically with him is better this year than it was last year.
I'd say the biggest thing that I can comment on in terms of like improvements is that the crazy negative downsides of his play kind of don't exist as much as they used. There'd be games where I'd watch Slavkovsky and he'd be on the ice 4 shifts in a row and he's just completely away from the play. He's like kind of close to it, but he's never really getting involved and nothing really comes his way. And then the puck just kind of breaks away from where he's going. So now he's got to route somewhere else. And then it's like rinse, repeat, shifts over in 40 seconds. So he's off the ice and he's back on the ice. Let's do a couple shifts. Then when he does get the puck, it's like a panic. He's like, oh, I've got the puck now. What do I do? And he just puts his head down and goes. The strengths where the improvements are coming from is he's using his frame better, and he's using his frame to kind of set up space to make short passes and stuff like this better. And players, he's kind of moving in sync with his line mates a lot better. He doesn't look like a guy who shouldn't be playing in the NHL this time around.
Right. I get why they're keeping him in the NHL. I see it, but I don't know if I would do it the same way.
No.
I don't know if I would do it the same way, because like, he has been struggling. I mean, again, you have to keep things in perspective. Guys like Shane Wright, also not, an entrenched NHL player. Logan Cooley is an entrenched NHL player now. He's a rocket ship. Simon Nemec, I've been watching him a bit in the I saw someone ask about him. I thought he's still Simon Nemec, right? Like, exceptional puck carrier. The rest is a work in progress, but that's fine. Slavkovsky this year, I agree. Like, I think a big thing that's really improved is that his body positioning, his puck protection, and again, like, thinking under pressure is better. And I think that's helping him keep possession of the puck a lot better. If he keeps it simple, he's better. But
you took him first overall.
Yeah.
You don't want to keep it simple. The fact that this is even the conversation point right now is still
troubling.
Something to be of concern. It's not a damning statement. It's also not like a statement of security.
Yeah.
It is kind of like all right, well, we're having a conversation where we're happy he's got his head up and he can make like a short backhand pass when his teammate's like breaking away out of a cycle or something, or out of a forecheck.
But I would add, look at what Logan Cooley can do.
Right. Well, that's the funny thing. Like, Joel Henderson at the draft, when we were sitting there with him, Slavkovsky gets drafted first overall, and Logan Cooley gets drafted, and they're showing the hype reel of Cooley, and Joel just goes, "That looks like a lot of stuff that Yuri Slavkovsky can't do." That cracks me up still. But I mean, look, I don't know. I like Slavkovsky. I still think that there's a good potential with him. He's, but it's interesting to think about it as it's like what we were just talking about. It's like, if he gets the puck to a Cole Caulfield, he's fine. But it's like, but you drafted him first overall. Like, why would what benefit is it that he's a good auxiliary player that like makes things happen around him, rather than like dictating what happens in a game.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens. Obviously, it's not over. He's still developing, but it's been interesting.
I think rushing him to the NHL really took the chance of him trying to become a play driver and more of a just dangerous chance creator in general. Kind of took that opportunity away. Like, it's not a developmental league, it's a league
Yeah,
you
that's
can
true.
improve on when you already have the fundamentals of a skill down and can like execute it at an NHL pace. But
Yeah.
he wasn't doing these things in Liga the year he was drafted. His Olympics points runs were, again, it was kind of like the Celaya point streak and the Kamel point streak we were talking about. It was like kind of some fortunate bounces and points kind of went his way. And he played really hard and he impressed everybody, but like it's still, it was a quite fortunate, like quite literally, if a few pucks bounce a different way, I'm not sure he's in a Montreal jersey.
Right. I think there's some grains of truth to that. I mean, granted, his ability to grab the puck in the middle of the ice towards the top of the faceoff circle, turn and rifle it, it's pretty good.
It's cool.
It's real good. It's cool.
Should have gotten time to like sit there and practice all different variations of getting the puck and maybe faking that shot and then going wide and try and maybe set up a passing lane. Like, there's so many different plays that he has the potential for, but he never really had the vision or the pace of executing them, only the flashes. Leave him in Liga for another year, bring him over this year, and if he's okay, put him in the AHL. Or sorry, if he's not okay, put him in the AHL. But for the most part, like, just give him a chance to kind of learn to be the guy.
So on that note, what about our friends, I should say, our two buddies playing for the Texas Stars in Logan Stankoven and Maverick Bourque? Because not too long ago, you and I were up watching a game of Maverick Bourque or two.
Maverick Bourque is disgusting.
That kid is good. Someone asked about like those two guys and what those two guys might, like, they have very different profiles, but who could work better in the NHL. I mean, honestly, they fill two different needs, but I mean, with
the higher end skill guy, Stankoven is the just drive the bus and just like Stankoven's the guy who you notice more on a line, kind of just like, especially outside of the offensive zone. Not that Bourque is bad in any way there either, but just Stankoven's got that like extra, he's got that dog.
Yeah.
It's the dog in Stankoven.
He has it.
And
it's there.
He just hustles on every play. And Bourque is kind of the guy who plays off of someone like that with a incredible set of hands and great shot, great passing, super deceptive, super shifty in small spaces, and just he's gonna be the perfect guy to shove with a different NHL star, and they'll be fantastic together.
Yeah, I that's the thing too. I think both of those guys play off each other really well. Like you said, like Maverick Bourque's ability to absorb pressure and like find a play, bounce off guys, read play in advance, make a play, and do it while moving his feet and do it at the AHL level and look pretty good doing it. And then Stankoven's there taking shots, playing hard, doing everything.
Still making some skill play
too.
Exactly.
And
creating some good chances too.
Like
they're
those
both
two
insane.
Those two are very good pickups for Dallas, and they're taking their time, right? Like they're taking their time. And I think someone just commented that they didn't even have to miss the playoffs to get those guys,
and
right?
And that's part of it. Is like because they didn't have to miss the playoffs and they're taking them with late picks, and because Dallas is still a good team, that's the reason why we don't have Bourque and Stankoven in the NHL right now.
Right.
Like, they're too good of an NHL team, and they're not guys you just shove on the fourth line. So you just kind of leave them in the AHL to get better and better and better. And they'll both likely be up next year. I mean, they should be. They'll have nothing left to be gained from playing in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, they could even be boosted in the playoffs. Just see what happens. Yeah. I don't know. Logan Stankoven on the power play in the playoffs. I don't know. A couple of injuries. I could see it.
Yeah. And I'll add, Will, because we were watching a game in the preseason with Stank against the Avalanche, and he held his own against McKinnon. It was hilarious.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he was.
McKinnon tried to just dance around him, and he couldn't. Stank just held his ground, and it was hilarious to see Nathan McKinnon unable to like get past Stankoven.
Yeah,
he's just feisty too. Like he knows he's small, so he just does the typical he just like gets under guys and just uses like the physics and the leverage of the situation to just like control even a power skill guy like McKinnon trying to blast by him. Like, I didn't see the specific game, but I can already just kind of picture in my head just Stankoven constantly just kind of getting under him, just be like, no, work a little harder, guy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of what
and
happened.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can
That's
totally
kind of how it
picture in my
happened.
head.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that it's sort of like an under-heralded advantage of smaller players in a way, where
Oh,
their
1000%.
quickness. Like, I'm convinced that players that size are so used to being undervalued that like they bust their butts more than most guys to like make a point of, yeah, I might be 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", but like look what I can do. And then they go out and do stuff like that. And the quickness of a player that size that's a little lighter on their feet, but really pesky with their stick checking and really just a pain in the bum to get around. That's a plus. And if they turn pucks over and turn pucks around and get moving up the ice, then good.
Yeah.
That's the job.
That's the
The whole,
job.
that's the point of the game, right? Other than scoring goals. Speaking of not scoring goals, I don't know what that was.
Smooth.
Someone asked about defensemen in this year's draft, and I believe you both of us have seen all three of these guys, and Sam Dickinson, Zane Perrick, and Artyom Levshinov.
I was wondering
If they were all on the board,
Dickinson.
you're taking Dickinson, eh?
Taking
I think I would
Dickinson.
agree. Levshinov is going to be interesting. You and I watched him not too long ago.
Yes.
Top 10.
No.
Top 15.
Uh,
That's about where I'm at, you know? Like,
he's part of that group. What I said earlier, it's like there's like the 6 guys, and then there's like the 10 interesting guys.
yeah.
And then there's like the whole tier afterwards. He's in this weird bubble between that like second and third tier, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I guess that makes him top 15, but when I watch him, I'm not feeling like I'm watching a top 15 guy. I have seen, like, the game we watched was probably the best game I've seen from him. And I was like,
that was a
if
good
he
one.
played like this all season for the rest of the year and improved, I can get on the top 10 train for sure.
Yeah.
For now, I'm like, I wonder how much of this he's producing at the NCAA level, but he plays like he's Denton Matejchuk did, where he's just in fourth forward the amount of times I'm watching, I'm like, hey, there's 3 forwards fighting in that board battle. How is there someone at the net? Oh, hey, that's Levshinov.
Yeah.
He's just waiting to tap it in or something. What's he doing there? That's a little crazy.
Yeah, he's oddly aggro, to use a Gen Z term, right? That's Gen Z? I don't know.
Something like that.
I'm old. Whatever.
Anyway,
I agree. Like, Levshinov is interesting. Like, everyone sort of points to how many points he scored last year. He's a point per game defenseman or so this year. Side note, someone just asked if Caden Lindstrom is part of that 6 or so guys.
Yeah. He is.
He's right up there.
I think I'll actually extend it to 8 because he is part of it, and for me, there's 8 of them, and he is in that.
Yeah, but anyway, with Levshinov, he is another fascinating one, similar to Salayev, where it's like he's big, skates pretty well. I think we just got a comment from Scott who's at Michigan State, and that he, is prone to turnovers. Just not really. He's super aggressive, but I find that under pressure he's a bit troubling. Like, the lateral mobility on defensive rushes is not quite there to close out things, and he relies a little bit too much on shoving guys around, and he's not Roman Polak, at least not yet. Like, I don't know what he is in the NHL.
Defensively, he's really hard to get a read on right now. I think mostly just because whatever defender he becomes in the NHL, he isn't that yet. Like, there's a lot of molding to be done there, and that can be framed as a positive thing, not a negative thing. It's just all about, especially with defenders, like, you can give a lot more of a runway for things like this because they do just kind of tend to figure it out in time. Like, he didn't fully have the USHL defense on lock and then moved up another level in play. So like it takes time. Like, it's forward set the pace, right? The defenders have to play reactionary. So it's almost normal to expect them to be a bit behind on development in certain areas. Which
nice.
Fell. I don't know.
Whatever. Don't worry about it. Someone mentioned in the comments that Artyom Levshinov is discount Seth Jones. It is November 27th, 2023, the year of our Lord. We still have 6-7 months to go, but that doesn't seem like that outlandish.
It's not the worst. I found
Yeah.
I found a lot of his points last year came from like a lot of his points last year came from
Shots.
point shots
Yeah, point
and
shots.
just like power play shots.
Yeah.
And or like those aggressive step-ins. And
Yeah.
it's you know, that stuff can work itself out at the NHL level, but not with consistency.
Yeah.
So a lot of the production, it paints the picture of a highly offensive guy, but it wasn't really being scored in a manner that I would see him scoring in the NHL. Now this year it's complete opposite. He's so aggressive, and like his positioning is just so in their face, and it's working. Like I actually don't think he's uncomfortable up there. I'm actually quite impressed by it. I just constantly go, you can't do that though.
Yeah.
Like you're a defenseman. At the end of the day, all it takes is the slightest bad bounce or anybody else involved in the play. Like he's at the net when there's 5 other people involved playing around the puck.
Yeah.
If any one of them make a mistake and the puck goes the other way and he's not there, he does not have Cale Makar's feet.
Yeah.
He's not getting back in time.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. So like there's this it's like this is what the issue I keep saying Matejka because it's just like it's the interesting to see this conundrum back again. It's just like I don't know what you do with the player like this. Like what's their identity in the NHL?
Yeah. I mean, and again, like our resident MSU expert Scott says that that's kind of the way they play, and it is true. I think Michigan State is a very sort of different type of team that really does kind of do that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. He'll be an interesting one. I don't know what I think about him really yet. Like early in the year, he wasn't in my first round, but now I think he's like, all right, in this draft, like if he's somehow there at like 16, 17, yeah, sure, see what happens. Someone asked, now I might be more of the expert on this one, but ranking 3 players: Liam Greentree, Beckett Seneke, and Matvei Gridin. I don't know if you've seen any of those guys yet, but
I've seen all of them.
Okay. I mean, to me, Liam Greentree is at the top of that list by
he's like
a notch.
Top.
Yes, I'd say comfortable.
I think that it was Greentree, Seneke,
Gridin, yeah.
I think that's already ordered.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't seen much out of Matvei Gridin. His last 10 games have been significantly slower than his first 10.
He exploded out.
He really did. But Greentree is, I mean,
making things happen on a team that are going out of their way to make sure nothing happens.
Yeah. If everybody's watching Matthew Nyes with the Toronto Maple Leafs, go watch Liam Greentree, because like that is a very similar player, a guy who might not have the perfect skating stride or speed going up the ice, but goddamn, everything else is just so good, and his team is shocking. The Windsor Spitfires are shocking hockey team. Like they're so bad. I think Greentree has been on a rip recently. He had a bunch of points last night or 2 nights ago or something. He's something like 52% of the team's goals he's got points on. He's well over a point per game, and no one else on his team can play. It's insane. But he's going to be an interesting one, and I feel like NHL teams are going to come around on him, or at least not come around, but have him a little bit higher at the end of the year.
Yep.
Interesting philosophical question for us as we watch different hockey leagues. What are the biggest things that you keep in mind when you're watching different leagues? Like if you're going from the KHL to the USHL back to back, what's the stuff in your mind that you're noticing or keeping mindful of?
That's an interesting question. I have an answer, but it's not all
it's not baked yet.
Basically, I found myself constantly running into issues where I was league hopping around. Like this was a huge thing in 2022. I'd go watch Noah Östlund and follow it up with Matthew Savoy, and they jump into like Yuri Kulik, and it's just like you can get focused too much on the individual and not consider the league, and that's not a good idea. So,
right,
I don't know. I'll let you answer the actual question itself, I guess. Right. But like, I found an easy way to at least account for all the differences in leagues is when you're going league hopping, find a player who's like kind of similar at first, and then watch fast player playing in Liga in Finland who's just a fast open ice attacker, and then go watch a fast open ice attacker in a different league. And then if I'm going to watch a bruiser in that league, then swap to him after. It's just like a way to constantly keep the league and how each one of them play individually in the back of your head without kind of getting lost, just over focusing on the player and their actions.
Yeah, I think you're sort of there with me. Like I do bounce around from league to league quite a bit. Honestly, like it just comes from reps, like just years in it. What I would say is like years of watching these leagues and like noting how, like, especially with how the players that come out of those leagues develop and like where their shortcomings go at higher levels and where they do. Like for example, look at the Quebec League. You know, I did this a few weeks ago, but I was looking through all the highly regarded Q guys that are now playing pro, and they're all, I'd say every single one except for Zach Leroux are struggling in a way in professional hockey. And if you watch a lot of Quebec League hockey, you can kind of see why that might be.
Yes.
And same thing with the Finnish Pro League. Like that is a league, like look at Brad Lambert, right? That's a great example of how you can look at a league and be baffled at what you're seeing. Like it's just very different.
He was too good to not be better in that league, if that makes sense. Like it's a nonsensical statement, but like,
well, he's a north-south player in a league where you just sort of skate around with the puck. Like it's not super north-south driven, or at least not as much as North American hockey, or in as we can see with Lambert in the AHL, North American Pro. You know, I think over the years you sort of get a good understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of these leagues. Like you can kind of tell if a player looks good in the SHL, and this is another side. I'm getting sidetracked, but with the European leagues, a huge advantage you have is that you can see the same players at multiple levels in a year. Yeah. So you can see players in the junior league in Sweden and go, oh, okay, like this guy for this level looks like he's pretty good. Like he's, moving well. He's got some skill. Someone mentioned Herman Truff. He's a really good one from that league. But then you go and watch them in the SHL, which is just another level of hockey. Yes. And it's very different. It can be very, very different if you don't, if you, like, for example, Felix Ungersorum, a guy who went pretty high in last year's draft, was a guy who in junior, like you could see how he could produce. He was shifty and creative. But in the SHL, his lack of size and lack of pace and just lack of speed really, was a bit of a shortcoming. But he's a guy that's a long-term project. So I guess long story short, I think for both of us, it's very case dependent and a lot of experience.
Experience is a big one.
Just watching these leagues and sort of picking and watching the players that come out of those leagues as they develop and what they do, what works, what doesn't work. And over time, you just kind of start to bounce around. And that's also part of the reason why I don't really put out a list until like December or January, just because it's like guys are getting settled. They're finding the right place to play. If they're in Europe or something, you get the chance to see them in a variety of different scenarios. And you just kind of go from there. But anywho, it's a good question though. A very, very good question.
Really good question. Actually, I'm going to keep thinking about this. I'm going to have a new answer next week.
Yeah.
I thought about it for a week.
Probably. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through questions here. Thoughts on Short King Max Swanson? All right. Anyway, moving on.
I loved Max Swanson when I watched him in flashes in the USHL last year without ever doing like shift by shift. And through my work with Puck Preps, I looked at this 2006 group last year, just kind of in general. So I would watch him when he went to qualify for Holinka. I watched him at Holinka.
Mm-hmm.
He was an animal, especially at the Holinka tryouts when he was on a line with Trevor Connolly and Colin Frank. And it's one of the dumbest lines I've ever seen in junior. The three of them were just next level, like big brothering everybody out there. Mm-hmm. Each one like an equal participant too. Like all three of them were incredible. But there's something about when I watched Swanson this year that is just like off. There's a couple of things that are kind of off. I know you've been had your own thoughts on
Talking smack.
a little, maybe
Swanson smack. Yeah, I mean, again, with players that size, like the bar's got to be high in my view. Like you got to like Stankoven, I think was 12 on my list or something like that, and that was with that high bar. And I don't think Max Swanson is that. I think he's a really good junior player. I think he could be a very good college player, just based on like kind of in the same way like Jeremy Wilmer was a good junior player, could be a good college player, is a good college player.
Yeah.
But when you take him to pro level, like like it's that relentlessness that a guy like Stankoven has, that pace and that shot, like that dog. And with Max Swanson, I mean, the first game I did of him, he didn't do anything. Like it was very quiet from him at 5-on-5. And that if you're 5'8" and can't really do much at 5-on-5, it's really, really tough.
You need like next level hands, like just to even picture you in the NHL to begin with, and then you need to use them all pretty much perfectly with pace, and then have that dog, that like extra energy level. It's like every year I do this more. It's like I love what the smaller players provide as prospects, but I'm more and more skeptical every year, except for Lane Hudson because he's sick.
someone asked about Lane Hudson. It's like, oh, what are your thoughts on Lane Hudson? I think we both agree that he's pretty sick.
Still sick.
I think he's almost a goal per game this year. That's not so bad.
Disgusting.
So someone asked a question that I think is a good one also for the first episode of the season, but who so far this year has you most excited to watch of the guys in the draft this year? Not necessarily like, oh my God, it's obviously Macklin Celebrini, but like,
Okay, when he's on, the answer is Ivan Demidov, bar none.
Okay.
It's not even close. I'll go a step further to say last year in his D-1, I still found Demidov more fun than most players in the draft that had Bedard, Fantilli, Benson, Crystal, Michkov.
That's true.
Like Demidov last year was one of the most, he had like a Jordan highlight reel. In Russian hockey,
skating around the perimeter all night, just making
like
plays.
Mohawk turning through like 18 players simultaneously, deking the coaches on the bench. He was incredible.
Yeah,
and he's not always in form this year. In fact, when I've seen him 3 games, 2 were not in form. 1 was flashes of form. Even then, I still turn it on like, let's go.
Yeah,
the most fun.
I'm waiting on him to sort of hit his stride again. He's been a bit slow this year. I don't know if he's like improved much, but he is still exciting. He's
Even
a lot of
without
fun.
The improvement, he's still like kind of better than almost the entire draft. But
he's a very good example of fun.
Oh, he's
just a lot of fun. He's really fun player. I just to be different, I'll throw Caden Lindstrom out there. We brought him up a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
That guy is so much fun to watch play hockey. Oh my God. Like fast, huge, skilled. He can shoot, can pass.
Crazy control with his reach.
Yeah. Like the first game I watched of him, he was very talented, but you still
wanted more.
You wanted something out of him, right? Same thing with Andrew Basha as well, as another guy who I find really exciting, but still hasn't, I don't think, quite put it all together yet. I think he had 5 points the other night, but you know what I mean. And Lindstrom just brings so much to the table. Like, the only real thing that I could really critique is that, he tries to do a lot by himself, does a lot of skill stuff that doesn't really take him anywhere. But the talent is just like outrageous. Like he's going to be one of these guys where NHL teams probably won't be able to help themselves. And at the end of the day, I feel like he's going to score points. Like at the end of the day,
if he's still on the board by like 4th or 5th overall, knowing the NHL and what they're looking for, I'd be honestly a little surprised. Like it feels like Celebrini at 1 is kind of a lock. Yzerman at 2, saying what they're looking for. I could see that being the case. Possibly not, but like I could most likely still think that's the one to go for.
Now,
and then it's like Lindstrom at like 3.
Granted, at this point in 2021-22,
what?
In 2 drafts ago, the one where Slavkovsky went first, nobody, I don't think at this point was thinking, oh yeah, you know what, Slavkovsky might be the best player in the draft. Like, and I'm not saying he ever was. he was very good. But even then, like I for a long time had him in the 10 to 12 range and or something like that, and then slowly moved him up over the course of the year. But I mean, yeah, I think Lindstrom could be a guy that certainly goes really high. That some lists are coming out that have him really high. Um, and I could easily see that be the case. He's been very, very exciting. But Demidov is also a really, really good answer.
Just one more really
Yeah,
quick is
fire away.
Luke Misa, who I'm sure we'll
Oh,
come back to at some point. But
yeah.
every single time I watch one of his games, I'm like, oh baby,
Yeah.
that's another one of the 8.
Yeah, he is in there. He's really good. Like Luke Misa is another one of those big, not
I think
big.
he's the best player in the OHL from the draft this year. Like,
I think he's right up there. Like Green Tree's right up there.
Right?
Dickinson.
1, 2, Dickinson, Misa. I just don't know what order yet. It was clearly Dickinson for a bit, but like, Misa's closed the gap. He's just incredible.
Yeah, like Misa he's not the biggest guy, but he has the things that you need to overcome it. Like his ability to get pucks off the boards, he'll eat pressure really well, get the puck off the boards really well.
He's a laser beam in speed.
Yep,
like,
he's quick,
faster than his brother.
Yeah, he's a laser beam on ice. He's a ton of fun to watch. Just a guy who I think is going to make everyone else look better.
Yeah,
one of those guys, and a really, really exciting hockey player. And yeah, he honestly slipped my mind, but that's shameful on my part. But anyway, so someone also asked about unexpectedly good rookies in the NHL or players who made the teams relatively early. Now, again, I don't know how much of these guys you've seen, but one guy that was mentioned in that question that has been really impressive to me is Pavel Mintyukov.
I've seen a bit of Mintyukov, and I cannot believe
that guy. I mean, in a way, it feels like Anaheim has gone, welcome to the NHL, go have some fun, do your thing, and when you screw up, learn. Like it seems like they're letting him play Pavel Mintyukov hockey. And when I remember the year he was drafted was he was all over the place. He was sometimes more of a guy who sat back, sort of took things easy. Other times he got the puck and just off he goes.
Like,
just
wild.
Yeah, just doing whatever. He went to Ottawa, reined things in a little bit, but also like Lev Shinov, just got himself to the net quite a lot and started making plays around there. But he's been really, really good in the NHL this year. I've felt like he's not obviously, a stalwart at both ends, just a remarkable player, blah, blah, blah. But tons and tons and tons and fun to watch. If we're talking about exciting and fun to watch guys, I think he's right up there. Now, if I'm going to put my nerd hat on, another guy in the NHL that I've really liked watching that's a rookie is Brock Faber. And he's a guy who, when he was drafted, it was still in the era where I kind of side-eyed defensemen who didn't produce a ton, because it's like, well, if you're not producing, then you probably don't have the puck in the offensive end a whole lot. And if you don't have the puck in the offensive end and you can't really score, then what's going to happen in the NHL? But now it's like, I don't care. Like watching him skate around, how quick he is with his mobility, how much he can get around the ice.
Fast decision making.
Really quick decision maker, keeps his passing relatively simple, but damn, like really
smart, man.
Really good defender. I mean, tonight, I think we found out a couple hours ago that they just fired Dean Evison, their coach. Say what you will about that decision. I think in my view, this is a team, the Minnesota Wild are a team where they're sort of the haves and have-nots, where there's like a few guys on that team who are really, really rocking. Guys like Boldy and Kaprizov, even like Zach Bogosian's been decent.
Yep.
But Brock Faber has been a really, really good player there. Jared Spurgeon is doing fine, here and there. But there's a lot of guys where they're doing fine. It's just they also can't buy a save. And we've seen two teams now that cannot buy a save at all now jettison their coaches. The Oilers, I don't know their record off the top of my head.
0 and something.
It's bad.
But it's not good. But they made that change, and we'll see what happens in Minnesota. I think that Minnesota will either stay the same if they can't get a save, or their goaltenders regress, and everyone goes, wow, John Hines knows what he's doing with this team. But in reality, over time, I think that's just the team regressing. But
Oilers record, by the way, Will, 7-12-1.
Right. Since the coach firing, though, I don't know what it is. Zero?
No. They've gotten some wins.
All right. All right. But what was I? Oh yeah. As long, I guess what I'll say on
until
the Minnesota
Jesper Wallstedt comes up and saves Minnesota, they're going to be in this predicament.
That's true. We might, maybe, you never know. You might, I don't know how it would happen. Like they send Philip Gustafsson to Roboda Island to hang out with John Klingberg and talk in Swedish all day. And they call up Wallstedt. I don't know, maybe. But the thing I will say about bringing in John Hines is as long as he plays Marco Rossi like 40 minutes a night, I think we'll be fine. Yeah, minimum. Yeah,
I think
for obvious reasons.
I honestly think the key to success might be not allowing Rossi to come off the ice.
Right.
Maybe putting him in goalie pads might actually be the solution.
Under threat of violence too might help. Just really put a lot of pressure on him right away.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that would do
There's
it.
never been a case in sports history where that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. There's a lot of people trying to get me got with some silly names here. I'm seeing as I'm scrolling through the comments here. A lot of people asking about Justin Poirier. I think we both have seen him a little bit over the years. Guy who's again part of the goals greater than assists club, which I have a bias against right away.
The Jonathan Chichu Club.
The Jonathan Chichu Club, yes. I'm trying to the Matt Pumple Club. Who are some other ones? Nick Ritchie, I believe, was one of them. Jake Virtanen was another one of them. It's a thing. I'm telling you, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Joakim Kamel, another one.
It speaks to their play style, and it speaks to like how they're getting their chances and like the conditions they're finding themselves in.
And
it's hard to get more goals and assists over the span of an entire season unless you have some kind of concerning habits or you're in a very specific like system-based case. It's so rare that exists.
So with Poirier, I think he's a very good example of all of those things where there's not a ton of pace in his game. There's not I don't think a ton of high-end skill. Just he's also very small, but when he's in the offensive zone and he just makes a quick little cut and steps into space, someone finds him the puck and he shoots it. And he seems to be scoring a lot. I don't know off the top of my head what his shooting percentage is this year, but scoring a goal per game almost is not bad. But I think he's got like 23 goals or something and like 8 assists. I could pull it up here just to be sure, but
it always is concerning especially when the league is the QMJHL, if a player is getting a lot of catch and release shots off of like one cut away from the puck or something like that. It's consistent in terms of like scoring goals this year, but it's kind of like a broken glitch shot in an NHL game where you just know the goalie can't ever stop it and like the defense never knows how to read this. So if I pull the puck this way, that angle's always set up and there's the shot and there's the goal every time. It's like, what happens when, the defender just closes them out and they read that lane coming and the goalie also is just like really good. Yeah. And now what does he do? He's not just gonna like this. These goals don't get translated into assists suddenly.
Right.
They just stop becoming points.
I mean, I'm just looking now, like at even strength, let's say Justin Poirier plays 20 minutes at even strength in a game, which is a lot.
That's a lot for a forward.
Okay, well, we'll say 15 minutes. So that's, he's got 21 shot attempts at even strength per 60 minutes. So divide that by 4. That's like just over 5. And that's just at even strength. So he's trying to put the puck on net about
a lot.
5-6 times a game, which doesn't sound like a ton, but at even strength, that's quite a lot.
It's hard to think about like a player is only on the ice for like 45 seconds or something like that in a shift. You have to hope you're in the offensive zone for like at least a third. Just break it up zone by zone. So you're in the offensive zone for a third. So if you're playing 50 minutes 5-on-5, you're maybe in the offensive zone for 5 minutes. There's 5 people touching the puck, plus the other team having the puck, plus how many times you actually get the puck in space to shoot. It's
5 on average is a lot. 5 on average is a lot. Like when I do my tracking work, like 5 comes up for a player maybe once in a while. And I do remember Poirier from this year, the game I did. Again, it was like turn and fire from the blue line, cross the blue line, shoot it on net, take a quick step and get a shot from somewhere. It's worked in the queue, but I don't know. Again, we're talking about league difficulty. I think the bar for me, at least in Quebec, is really, really, really high. Let's see what there's just, oh my goodness, there's so many. Oh, here's one that's specific to me and I guess you as well. Not a 2024 pick, but what are our thoughts on Porter Martone?
Yo,
Porter Martone is
disgusting.
He's my boy. Porter Martone's my boy.
You take this one.
I've been watching him since he was in AAA, I guess you could call it, like before he was drafted in the OHL with that insane junior Canadians team with Michael Haig. Who else was on that team? Cristoforo, Jack Van Volsen, a bunch of guys for this year's draft and next year's draft. But I loved Martone more than all of them. And I mean, again, we just talk about rock solid hockey players. He is one of those. Big, skilled, physical, but can get around guys.
A lot of the things people like about Caden Lindstrom is in Porter Martone,
yeah.
but I think more refined.
Yeah, I could see that.
Younger player.
Yeah. A really, 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 really talented hockey player. I wish he was eligible for this year. Like if he was eligible this year, I feel like he'd be
Top
what?
5.
Like probably,
I think I can say it. I've got Lidstrom kind of close to that already, kind of getting close to it. And I think Martone's got a little bit more in motion skill in terms of just like making plays with it. Like maybe it's not in motion skill. Maybe that's not the way to, he uses his skill in motion to work with, for example, Luke Misa, like the two of them.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
That they can run with each other. You don't really see those type of plays coming from Lindstrom too much.
Right.
I don't know if you put Lindstrom with Misa and took him out of his current environment, maybe that's the case. But when I've watched Lindstrom with Team Canada on multiple, I believe he played in the U17 November last showcase, like this time last year.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Plus there was the Holinka in the summer. I think there's a third thing I watched him in, but it doesn't matter. Either way, like he no matter where he's playing, he kind of just like, I get the puck, I go do my thing, and it's sick as hell, but I might turn it over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Martone's got a bit more structure to his game, and I think that's kind of the tipping point of the two of them. But at the end of the day, they both have just ridiculous sky high potential. It's like,
yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now this is an interesting one that could get dissected again. Do you have a preliminary top 10? I do.
I do too, but you go first.
I don't like it.
I like mine.
I don't know, because it's, again, like this draft is so weird to me, because it's like already I'll watch, like what I usually do is I go in like batches of 5 or 7 guys and go, okay, I've got these guys really close. I'm going to watch these guys sort of back to back to back and see what I see. And it's like a lot of the time I watch these guys and it's like, okay, well, I didn't like him that much as this guy, so I'll move him down. And then I thought, okay, and it's like a competition of who gets moved down the least right now for me. That sounds bad, but it's not. It's just like
it's the process.
It's like I like this guy more and this guy definitely not as much, so I move, and it's just like, oh, and then at the end of the day, like I'm looking at my list and Luke Meese is like in my top 10. And it's like, well, okay, like is that going to stick for does that feel right to me? I don't know. I don't know. I think so.
I've had Misa in my top 10 since almost the start of the year. And then after like a couple weeks, I was like, no, I've looked around at all the other top guys. And that's definitely one of the 10 guys I want to take first.
He's on pace for over 100 points this year.
He's
like
insane.
He'll be very good.
I think I could give a top 10.
Yeah, I mean, at least top 15 or 20, like at least. But for me, I mean, my 10 right now is, again, very early, but I've got Dickinson at 10, and then Zeev Buyam at 9. Zeev, Mr. Zeev. Luke Misa at 8. I've got Michael Brensig Nygaard in Hockey Allsvenskan, the Norwegian guy, at 7, just because he's got that dog. He's going to be a solid NHL player. I've got Cole Eiserman at 6, Caden Lindstrom at 5, Adam Juracek at 4, soft 4, Berkeley Catton 3, Demidov 2, soft 2, based on what we talked about earlier with him, and then Celebrini at 1. I mean, I don't think it's that controversial to say Celebrini's probably the guy at 1.
Celebrini is like definitely the guy at 1 until Demidov goes for like a month just YOLO and wheeling YOLOing and wheeling around like he did last year. Like when I watched the 2 last year, I was like, I love Celebrini, but Demidov is just like different. Like if you're drafting first and you have a chance to like define an offensive star on your team for like a decade, like Demidov's the dude. Like I'm waiting for that moment for him to be like, all right, I'm ready.
He's just a rocket. Like he's just fun. He's just like he would be if he works out, he's a fan favorite, right? Like how much value does that have? Who knows? But that like he's that fun to watch.
Yeah.
I will also say that you introduced me to this guy in the summer, but he's in my first round now, and that's John Mustard.
Oh yeah, John Mustard.
John Mustard is a guy. He's barely in my first round right now. Like I think he's at 32. Let me look.
I think he's a 32 guy.
He is also very young. He's almost eligible for next year. But in his rookie year in the USHL, he's over a point a game. He's at 20 points on 18 games. I mean, we don't have to go in depth about John Mustard, but I really want to see John Mustard in an NHL jersey with the number 57, just for the Heinz reference.
I just need to see him catch up to everybody else.
Yep.
But anyway, Sam.
I relish that one.
Hey, there we go. But yeah, I mean, John Mustard is just a ton of fun, and also seeing the word mustard on a back of an NHL jersey, it would just be incredible.
He is actually like terrific though. Like memes aside, like the kid is actually like he's a dynamo. He's on the ice.
It's one of the again. There's like 40 guys where it's like they're all solid. They're all solid and interesting.
Has some gems.
Yeah,
the USHL has some real like gems this year, and because the draft. I try because that's the league I've focused on by far the most out of everything so far, and because of the draft kind of being a little at first I was watching these guys, I'm like, you're all a lot of fun. I don't know where you are ranked, but you're all fun and I like you. And then I went and watched some of the other leagues and regions, and I was like, oh, cool, those USHL guys are going to get like serious consideration in the top couple of rounds. That's awesome.
Yeah, like Sasha Boisvert
is
one. Michael Haig is the other one.
He's turned around. Michael Haig has dealt with injury a lot the last 2 years. Like
true.
He hasn't got the ice time that a lot of other 2006 born players have. It has set him. I don't want to say set him back because it has, because he's back in form now. But he did have like a adjustment period, trying to get his feet under him, trying to get the pace of the game back. He had his flashes shown. And I remember I checked in early at the beginning of October, and I was like, okay, he's still, he's gotten better and he's getting closer to being the player that he was hyped up to be. But I don't know if I've personally seen it yet. I didn't watch him with the junior Canadians either. So I was like, I'm still waiting to see it. But I've seen 2 games of his in November, and holy crap. He was just suddenly like, oh, you're now looking like one of the best dudes in the USHL entirely.
Yeah.
Holy, you're killing it now.
And the other thing too is the Chicago Steel are bad. They're bad. Like he's at a point a game in the USHL, but he's got points on 35% of the team's goals, which is pretty good.
And he also got a fair percentage of those points in the last, let's say 4 to 5 weeks, because he didn't score a whole lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I think he's going to trend towards a very, he's definitely a first round player right now.
Yes, I think so too. I don't think he's quite there on most lists. Oh no, on average right now he's around 25, which I think is reasonable for now. I think
that's pretty fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Someone also asked about why I left Consta Hellenius off that top 10. And he's another one where I just kind of want to get in a time machine and go forward 5 years and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because I've seen him a lot. And again, going back to that whole discussion about leagues and the little bit about Brad Lambert, it's kind of like same, but opposite. That doesn't make any sense. But you watch him in Liga, and you go, okay, he is smarter than a lot of the guys he's on the ice with. Yes. Making better plays, seeing things more ahead of time, but the tools are not great. I don't think he's very smart, But
Yeah.
projecting to men, like he's in my top 20, or I think, no, 21. So just outside. I mean, I like him as a first round guy, but
I think he's a first round guy for sure.
yeah, I just don't see like if I draft him in the top 10, like he's a 5'9" guy that isn't the most skilled guy, doesn't have a ton of pace in his game, but he's just very smart.
Intelligence is, as someone who looks for the like giga-brained players more than anything.
Yes, Giga Brain.
Every year I do this, I realize more and more intelligence without executing plays and pace and playing with pace just kind of in general can only take you so far. He thinks really well, and it's never late to like executing a play or anything like that, but he doesn't command the ice or like control. What's the easier way of saying this? I guess there's almost two types of pace. There's the pace that the individual plays with when he has the puck and when he's away from the puck and like kind of circling in. And then there's the overall pace of the whole 5-man unit that he's playing within.
Yep.
He thinks the game at the 5-man unit level really well. He definitely keeps up mentally with them. Individually, he could stand to add a little bit more pace. I don't know how all of this is just going to come together. I don't know if he benefits or struggles more because of the smaller ice. Guys, like I feel like he struggles more. Like he'll have some benefits of, you know, just not having to go as far,
right,
and cover as much ground. But,
yeah,
you know, the downside is that smaller ice is going to come with faster and better athletes who are just like
right,
flying by him.
I'm happy to be wrong. And again, it's November. And someone just commented about him relative to Berkeley Catton. And I think Berkeley Catton has more of that sort of north-south puck control pace to his game and the same kind of smarts to me, which puts him ahead for now. But similar strengths and weaknesses, I guess you could say.
I feel like it. I think that's really true, but it also just opens up a different point in conversation of like you can put all of their strengths and weaknesses in a list and see that Hellenius and Catton are similar, but then you watch them and you're like, but they're not. There's
right.
Catton's got that extra little bit, like there's more skill in his execution on his plays.
Yeah.
It's just I don't even know how to begin to put it into words. It's one of those things that I want to think on this for a week and come back and with a better answer.
But yeah, like it yeah, again, it's still early, but we'll see where things end up because those are very interesting points. On the other hand, what about Aaron Kiviharju? Got a question about him. Now,
he was really good when he was 13.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to laugh at Aaron Kiviharju, but you know, it was just funny. I'll say that he's not in my first round. I saw 2 games of him at the beginning of the year and thought he was bad. Like not he's again a really good example of how the men's leagues are very different from junior, especially in Finland. Like Kiviharju is a guy who can pick a team apart with his passing. Like if you look at how he produces his points from what I've seen over the years, and he's been around many years, he's just a really clever guy with the puck on his stick, but only if he's passing it.
Yeah.
Seeing secondary options, baiting and switching, all that stuff. He had it down when he was 16. But in men's hockey, especially as an undersized defenseman who's not necessarily super mobile, that's troubling. Like I've seen situations where you're watching him and he'll miss an assignment coming off the boards and it's in the back of the net 2 seconds later. And that's happened a few times. And not saying obviously that he can't improve or learn or whatever word you want to use. But I'm not surprised that people are kind of dropping him a bit. The injury doesn't help, but even before the injury and watching him last year, yeah, concerns were valid. And this year, again, it's early and we'll see. But again, like, I don't know, looking at the list of guys on my list ahead of him, like, are you going to take him over? Who's ahead of him? I don't even see him. He must be really low. Gee whiz. What have I done? He is really low on my list. Anyway, I won't say the specific number because I'm going to get destroyed. But like Alphonse Fry out of Sweden,
I'd take. Is it Fry or
Fridge, Alphonse
Fridge?
Alphonse Fridge. That's it.
I would take Frey. I think I must be running on a crazy sample of Frey because when I
I
talk
love
to
him.
some people about Frey, they're like, "Yeah, he's cool," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's more than cool." When I see him just like zipping passes around like
Yeah.
nobody,
Yeah.
I'm like, man, he even if we're talking passers, he might be the perfect comparison because Kiviharu, guy who plays through his passing, Frey is also one who mostly plays through his passing, but he's
Yep.
got more in terms of his feet and kind of moving with the puck. But his passing is just like the volume and efficiency to which that man is passing and completing.
Like
he's kind of crazy for that.
Yeah, like with Buyam and Dickinson and Perek and even Salayev and Fridge, Levshinov, even like a guy like Thomas Galvis. Like Thomas Galvis to me seems like a guy who is like Kiviharu, but like what people think Kiviharu is, but
is what Thomas Galvis is.
That's what Thomas Galvis is. Like
I remember watching him in the summer and being like, "Yo, is this kid legit?"
Yeah,
he's just proven to be like, yeah, he's kind of legit.
He's gonna be an interesting one to watch. I feel like he'll be a guy that gets drafted in like the 3rd round and looks pretty good for a while as he's developing. Pro hockey, I think
I could see him hitting the wall.
But but the skill level and mobility and like
vision at times.
Yeah, like there's something there with him. He's not playing a tremendous amount, I don't think, last I checked, but he's been solid. I'm interested in VT Väisänen if we're talking about Finnish defensemen.
I haven't seen him.
Väisänen's a guy who I didn't really like that much last year, but the skating has improved, the skill level's improved. Again, if we're talking 5'9", 5'10" defenseman, I've liked him more. Marcus Kiersey, Quebec League guy. So I'm on the record many times about how much I don't really like the Quebec League that much, but I really, really think Marcus Kiersey's a thing. I know you probably want to tell me to shut up about him at this point because I talk about him quite a bit in our private conversations.
I haven't gone around to formulate a solid opinion on him.
A guy who has flaws, but in terms of puck movement, the way he anticipates and reads play and he's connected on a tremendous amount of his passes that I've checked, and I think he's at let me look. Let me just get this up real fast here. But what's his name? Kiersey? I think he's like over 80% for his passing. Oh no, he's not. But he's still very, very high and almost passing the puck twice a minute, which is quite a lot. Really efficient transition guy, uses his feet to get involved defensively. And on that note, while we're talking about defensemen this year, a few people were asking about why I like Adam Jiricek as high as I have him.
Because he's gross.
Well, he could be. That's the thing. Relative to his brother is very interesting watching them.
They're so different.
Yeah.
Like, David was a wild card who just loved to launch people as far up the stands as he could get them, but he still played like good hockey, like fundamentals for everything: offensive zone, defensive zone, in transition, like defending the rush. Like you could see the potential in every aspect of his game. He had tons of strengths everywhere, and then just like this, he made aggression a skill.
Yeah,
I remember saying that about him in the draft, and it's just kind of the same. Whereas then you watch Adam, and he's smaller, bit more graceful on the feet.
Yep.
Bit more graceful with the puck on his stick. Just terrific vision and transition, like how well he can hit guys without them having to break stride to catch it. Like that, the timing of the pass is just fantastic.
Someone mentioned that he looks a little bit outmatched at the pro level, and I think I would agree with that. Like I think he's obvious. Like I think he loses quite a lot of physical battles, just like his brother did at the same age. But also like I kind of want to like his brother pushed things with the puck. Like he stepped up from the blue line. He was confident. Whereas I feel like Adam is a lot more defensive leaning. Like he kind of uses his feet to defend really, really, really well, which is why I like him so much. Like he's lanky, but he's mobile and fluid, really good stick checker. Like he is a good passer for sure, but there's just not that next level sort of offense out of him. But the whole thing for me is like you can kind of see it percolating there.
It's
like
bubbling.
You see it, you can see the potential for it, but maybe that's just not his game. I don't know. But and I again, like I said when I was reading the names, like he's a soft 4 for me. Like I could easily see him being lower for me. But
I have him closer to 10.
Yeah, but like especially with Caden Lidstrom there, Brandsegg Newgard, those guys could be maybe more desirable, but I just really like Juracek and what he could be, and he's also pretty young for the draft, which is also a pretty good thing too.
Yep.
But anyway, this was a topic about Kiwi Haru, but like we're talking a lot about these guys,
yeah.
and they're all more exciting to talk about than what I've seen of Kiwi Haru this year, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens with him. And again, after seeing watching him over the last few years, I can see what makes him special, but I also see why he's quite limited at high levels of hockey right now.
I remember an interesting point with Kiwi Haru was last year at the World Juniors when he got cut. People were upset about that when he didn't make the team. Was it that he didn't make the team, or was that he was benched or something? I just remember there was a conversation of him to do with the World Juniors,
right?
And that he didn't get the ice time, and people were all like, "Yeah, Finland needs us." And I just kind of remember watching him being like, "Do they?"
Someone in the comments will probably know, but I don't.
I'll wait for that comment.
Yeah, we'll wait for that to come in. But yeah, someone's probably Googling it right now.
Thinking that like he just wasn't
doing
like he was getting kind of run over defensively, and he wasn't really doing a whole lot to like get the puck out of the zone, and he had some nice passing here and there that was a little nicer than like the rest of the Finnish team, but like it doesn't really circumvent the fact that he was kind of getting he wasn't really being a whole positive impact force out there.
Yeah.
And I feel like this conversation has continued, and it's just like it's an interesting how much name value and the prestige some prospects have will elevate their status.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes how long, because like in some ways, Kiwi Haru right now has. I'll forever be obsessed with 2022 and Brad Lambert, and just everybody just like going, goodbye to him, like kind of way too soon into the year.
Yeah.
When he was disgusting in like every game that I watched outside of like one for like 10 to 15 to 20 games, however many it was that year.
Yeah.
And it's Kiwi Haru, and the injury, of course, kind of masks this a bit, but like how long does he have to play before people start to go, yeah, okay.
I know. Well, I think he's got to play more for that to happen, but exactly. inertia is definitely very real.
That's
someone asked, I lost the comment, but I think someone asked a little while ago about here it is. Since starting our work, I guess you could call this, our efforts, our something, whatever you want to call it. What's your biggest told you so, and what's your biggest whiff? Granted, it's still early. We've only been I've been digging into this stuff as seriously as I am now for about 4 or 5 years. You're, I think, a little less. So the guys are still pretty young.
I would say 2020.
Yeah.
Maybe. Let's say 2021.
And those guys are coming. They're emerging.
Well, I mean, I guess by default, even though it sucks and it wounds me to say this one, but the biggest whiff in a way is got to be, I put William Eklund first in 2021.
And
he's
that was
not a guy who's going first in a redraft or second or third, right about now, probably not fourth. So like that's not overly the best, but hey, Montreal did the same thing the next year.
Right. I'm blanking though. Who was that the Owen Power draft?
That's the Power draft.
Okay.
He went 7th.
I'm feeling pretty good about that one. That guy.
Eklund first is like one of those. I think it's mostly there's still a universe where it pans out, and I know the environment he's been in. Like he himself is still like I see him, and he's still that player. I'm like you're close, man. Like you can still explode.
He's been good this year. I think it's hard to tell because San Jose is
not good.
Awful.
They're good.
Awful.
And it's hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
He's like a star that needs to play with other star guys to kind of like, he doesn't want to drive the bus the whole time.
Right.
He's almost like what we were saying with Maverick Bourque earlier. He's got everything you want. If you've got another guy on the line with him, the two of them together will just like explode. But he doesn't really have that. Like,
yeah, he doesn't.
We're still trying to. What was Locked On Sharks thing? We're trying to get Eklund a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still trying to get William
still
Eklund
waiting.
his friend.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's
probably a bit of a miss at this point. I watched Lane Hudson in his D-1 and what that dude is a rock star, surefire stud. I'm so convinced of this. Oh my god, it never faltered from it. But
that's a good one.
Brad Lambert is the one I want to say, but it's too early.
Oh, I can take that one.
I
know it's too early, but I had him at 3.
I had him at 3 as well, like 3 or 4.
And let's see, I think
check at 3.
so. Part of the perks, if you subscribe to Scouching.ca, there's I keep a running tally of, according to my silly metric of NHL score, which, it's not everything, but it's a decent gauge of how valuable certain levels of production are. Where's Lambert on this? He's in the top, what is this? 15 league wide, behind guys like Yuri Tiacek, but also Pavel Mintyukov, Matvey Michkov, Olin Zellweger, Connor Bedard, Luke Hughes, Logan Stankoven. Yeah, exactly. Nobodies. Yuri Kulich is in there. Yuri Kulich rules, by the way. He's been great in the AHL. I don't know if he's played in the NHL yet. I know they called him up, but he's in the NHL quicker. Yeah, they did. I
missed that.
Yeah, they called him and Racine up, and I'm surprised they called him up that fast. But I mean, I saw Yuri Kulich in Toronto last year once, and I mean, he's still Yuri Kulich, but he's Yuri Kulich. Like, that guy can play.
That dude plays hockey.
You put him on the face-off circle on the power play, and he'll put the puck in the net, but he can also do other stuff too. But anyway, like Brad Lambert being where he is now and having such a successful career in Seattle, I mean, I don't know. You don't want to back Pat too early.
It's that's the thing. It's like, I don't technically want to victory lap any player, because it's the earliest I can fully put my feet down and stand by something is 2020, I guess I'd say, but let's just say 21, because that's when I started doing the work publicly. And we just don't know yet. Like, I was a big fan of Fabian Lysell, so was Will, so was AJ.
Yep.
AJ, shout out Fabian Lysell real quick.
Yeah.
Yes, I love him. He is my boy.
Almost too much, I would say, but that's okay.
I message Will about him almost once a day.
Yeah, pretty close. He comes up a lot in our casual conversations. It's a little weird. I mean, now I know what to get you for Christmas, though. Like, just a framed poster of Fabian Lysell carrying the puck around doing nothing with it.
I'd appreciate that.
I'm half joking. I like the guy.
I love Lysell still. It's just like, he is someone I overranked a bit, but it's still like, I still also know why I did it, so I want to see like where he comes from with it. Olin Zellweger is one I do kind of like. I had Zellweger 14 or 15 in his draft year, and I took him when I do the Montreal Canadiens draft picks.
Yeah.
I took him. The Habs took Logan Mailloux. I'll let the audience decide who won that competition.
Right.
I make no comments.
Yeah.
It's a fairly biased audience, though.
That's also true. But we love the audience. We love them. We love them very much. But I definitely would throw Caden Gooley in there. Gooley is one that, I mean, I liked Caden Gooley, and I fully admit that that's a learning experience for me. That guy can play.
He's really good.
He's still Caden Gooley in a lot of ways, like from junior, but he is very good at what he does very well. And
he denies good NHL attackers.
Just to pull the curtain back a little bit, like based on the Scouching report format, I had think, move, get, pass, shoot, or whatever. Well, that's what it was. And in the I label the video clips that I pull from games based on those categories. And so it's funny looking back, because a lot of the players where I'm going, there's a lot of good stuff in these folders that are not labeled bad. And I did not have this player ranked very high. And with Caden Gooley, I want to say it was over 30 clips across 7 games labeled get, like some form of that. And very few of them had the word bad in it. And I devalued that way too much. Like, I thought at 16 where he went, like based on who was available, maybe a Maverick Bourque could have been there. Marat, maybe. But Gooley, in terms of just what he does really well, not a bad move. And that's one where I don't know if I would call it like a whiff, but it was a learning experience, because it just goes to show, like, if a kid can really defend in a lot of ways and do it really well, That is also very, very valuable.
Unbelievable.
Same thing with Jake Sanderson. You know, that's a guy, again, Jake Sanderson, if we want to talk about Adam Urachek, not comparing the two, but a guy where early in the year you could see flashes of stuff. He was good at some stuff. He was a good defender, but you didn't see the whole picture come together. And then after Christmas, I feel like January, February, March, whatever, Sanderson just like exploded.
Sanderson
he
was
just
a BioSteel game.
yeah, the
if I
BioSteel
remember
game.
correctly.
He just took
Snapped
off
there,
like,
and then it was like that was it. There's the second half of his season right there.
and he was just like, I'm confident now. I can just do stuff that I want to do. And that's another one where when he went at 5, you know, I mean, I still really, really love Marco Rossi's game, but I probably should have had Jake Sanderson higher because he's been very good with Ottawa. I'm trying to think of like other ones that you can kind of get into that are big whiffs for me. Like,
I think you're forgetting another person on Ottawa who you, I think, purposefully are not naming. Tim Stützle,
who I absolutely despise.
Yes, who you absolutely despise.
The player who I said was a good, likely to be a very electrifying offensive talent that can score a lot of points.
That you ranked at what, 5?
Yeah, that I had at 5. That he has become. I mean, I had him behind Lucas Raymond, and
who is disgusting.
Who is also a very, very good hockey player.
Marco Rossi, who is the biggest exception to the like what happened. Like the poor kid got COVID, and like hockey became the last thing in his mind. I don't know. I can't speak for him, but like a lot of other things took precedent over him, and he still is back in the NHL now. The amount of prospects good enough at hockey to like make it to the NHL through everything that he's went through is very small.
I mean, there's
Marco
a sample
Rossi
of one.
Was disgustingly good, and like the flashes are starting to come back again.
Yeah,
and it's like, man, if he gets this game back fully on track, he will look like a top 5.
It's kind of amazing that top draft, that 2020 draft class. Now that they're kind of getting their feet going in the NHL, like, and how many of them are actually looking really good.
Jarvis.
Like, Seth Jarvis, Anton Lundell, rest in peace, Rodion Amarov, but I'm pretty sure he would have been one of those.
He was 100%.
He was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Really
Cole Perfetti has been a good NHLer. Marco Rossi is looking solid this year.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Quinton Byfield.
Yep, Quinton Byfield, Tim Stützle, Lucas Raymond. I've seen a few questions about Alexis Lafreniere. Yeah, Dawson Mercer is another one. Even Ridley Gregg, for what he does, he's been good. And that's another one where I wasn't super high on him, but you know.
Oh, Peterka.
Yeah, Peterka's another one. You got Bork on the way.
Lucas Reichel.
Yep, Lucas Reichel. There's a ton. I mean, but in terms of guys who are like almost marketable, you know, like Lucas Raymond is almost like a marketable hockey player for Detroit, if not already.
He's in a lot of ways like their best forward outside of maybe Larkin.
He's been extremely good for sure. And a few people asked about Alexis Lafreniere, and I didn't mention him there, but I will say like he's playing the best hockey I think he's played in his NHL career this year. And that's not, you know, he's had a few rough years, but I mean, someone asked about like what's different about him, and I actually went out of my way to watch a few games of him this year with the Rangers because I also just wanted, like, there's a lot of talk about how much better he is this year, and I think he had been shooting like a 25% or something on the season, and that's obviously not sustainable. And he's again part of the more goals than assist club in the NHL this season, I think. Still, I could be wrong, but he was last I checked. But he does look like quicker, like it's like that step of quickness that he has that he didn't really have last year or the year before. And I don't know if that's from losing weight or if it's from getting better on his feet or whatever, but he does look a lot more comfortable, I should say, in the NHL. And you know, when he plays with Panarin, you find space and Panarin will find you.
Yes.
And so, but I don't know, but I still don't know if it's quite on the level of guys like Byfield and Stützle and Raymond and Sanderson and
the rest of that
the rest of that group, right? Like
top 15, top 20.
He's been very good, but I mean, again, when I sit down and watch Marco Rossi in the NHL this year, he's a pretty good hockey player. You can tell he's a pretty good hockey player that you like throwing over the boards. I think recently he's been on their first line playing with Kaprizov, and I think he's on a 4-game point streak or something right now. So he's doing okay for himself.
I did not realize he got up to the first line.
He has, I
But,
think,
like,
recently.
that
Yeah.
makes me extremely happy, especially because that team has needed a center.
Yes.
Like they have good centers. Like
Yeah.
I don't think like Eriksson, Ek, and Hartman and them are like bad players, but just like they needed that dynamic guy to like go out there with Kaprizov and like really start to
Yeah.
take games over and dominate possession and just go for like crazy like 40-second long cycles in the ozone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like very few teams have a winger capable of doing stuff like that, like Kaprizov. Even less have a center to match him. But you know, maybe.
Yeah.
Like Rossi comeback story is like the story of the NHL season in terms of like young players doing stuff. If you ask me, like,
It is
this
one of
guy
them
is,
for
like,
sure.
He should have been a star by now if it wasn't for all of the unfortunate stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now you got me thinking about like the exciting guys in the NHL that are young and playing well. And I mean, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot.
Like
So
Luke
many.
Hughes has been great in New Jersey. I very, in this circle of people, I tell people all the time, I don't watch special teams that like ever. Like power play, penalty kill, extra net or extra man, empty net, never do it.
To put it simply, Will says they don't count. Those points don't
true.
count.
In terms of evaluating a player, they don't count. It's empty calories. But I am curious from a tactical standpoint, what makes a good NHL power play and a bad NHL power play and a good NHL penalty kill and a bad NHL penalty kill. And Luke Hughes is on the best power play in the league right now. And him with his brother, and I believe it's Jesper Bratt, running that power play around the perimeter is so much fun to watch. Like,
yeah, I mean,
Jack Hughes is a monster.
Yeah,
he's disgusting and just I don't know how else to put it.
He's unstoppable.
He's just ridiculous.
I love him. He's amazing. It's
yeah, and like
we're gonna shower him with compliments.
Yeah, we could just talk. The next 15 minutes, we could just talk about Jack Hughes and just shower him in good vibes. Exactly, all three of them. Yeah.
Disgusting.
Oh yeah, Quinn Hughes has been phenomenal this year.
Quinn
yeah, they're
disgusting.
He's
they're
arguably the Hart Trophy like candidate this year.
It could happen. I mean, they're the Stahl family now. Like they're just like every kid. Well, not every Stahl kid, but a lot of the Stahl children turned out to be pretty good hockey players.
All three of the Hughes brothers are just sensational.
Luke Hughes doesn't look out of place on a top power play unit in his rookie season. Like that's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's a very hard thing to do, but all of them just have this innate sense of timing and precision with their passing, but that ungodly level of footwork.
Yeah, it's really good.
Godly.
And so those three guys, like, because a lot of NHL power plays these days, the fun ones, really seem to like love to get down low like Tampa did. Like everybody kind of seemed to want to be Tampa, where it's like, let's give the puck to Kucherov below the goal line and he'll one touch pass it out in front and you can't stop it. But it seems
also can't replicate that.
Well, it's hard, right? It's like hard. The Leafs.
That power play is so disgusting. Getting to see it live this year, as I watched that crazy comeback game in person. Oh, yeah. As soon as Kucherov touched the puck, I just counted down. I counted down out loud 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as soon as I got to 1, he put it in the net. And I was like, yep, this is going to be a long night. But it ended up being a lot of fun.
Yeah. And Toronto did that kind of power play a lot. Just get the puck down low and someone would just bounce it down to the front of the net and it would go in, and they scored a lot of goals that way. But New Jersey just seems to be really playing around with like perimeter passing and like dragging penalty killers to one side of the ice, and seeing Luke Hughes sort of drag guys to one side and then turn and put pucks across the offensive zone to his brother, and his brother stepping up and doing his thing or getting the puck across the ice. Like it's just really, really fun to watch. And it was very interesting to watch that, especially juxtaposed over the worst power play in the league, which was, I believe, the Washington Capitals with puck carrying quarterback Tom Wilson. I noticed a few times, which that was,
that's a choice.
I mean, it just kind of goes to show too, like a lot of the times it's like the quality of your players matters a lot on your special teams, right? Yeah. Like who do you give the puck to? And so we kind of joke about how I say, oh, it doesn't count. Like power play stuff doesn't count. But the only reason I do that is because it's like, well, at 5-on-5, you can see the guys who you want carrying the puck on a power play. you can tell. It's like, well, if this guy's this good carrying the puck when everyone's on the ice together, what happens when you remove one of the opponents? Like, or if they're this good defensively with the motor and they have it with equal men on the ice, what if you lose a man? Are you going to tap him on the back and go, all right, get out there? Yep. Like, do you really need to see Zach Benson on the penalty kill in the WHL to know he could probably get out there and work hard enough to kill penalties in the NHL? Probably not.
No. And if you're doing data work like you do with the tracking, it's just like it taints a sample more than anything. You just kind of want to get that out of there, make it 5v5 only.
Well, that too. It's also for my own sake and simplicity.
Yeah, I'm on board with a lot of that.
But yeah, I mean, so it comes down to a lot of like the quality of the players you've got on your team. Like Alex Ovechkin is still on the power play in Washington, and he is
not good. Not good.
He's showing his age. Like he is, like you can just see it. Like when he's moving the puck and he's not shooting it, it's not great.
He's one of the puck carriers of all time.
Yes, and he is stationary in the offensive zone, which is kind of his trademark.
And in the defensive zone as well. He's stationary at the blue line waiting for a breakout.
Like, and you've got passes going into feet and guys just getting blocked out at the offensive blue line and just all this stuff that, I mean, you hate to boil it down to just if you had better players, you'd probably have more success. Like Rasmus Sandin, as much as I like the guy, being your power play quarterback with John Carlson, I don't know if that's ideal. Not ideal. I mean, clearly not, because they're shooting, I think, like 8% on the power play this year and 9%, which is not ideal at all.
That's how you draft 8th for a second year in a row.
But to be fair, like they haven't been terrible, at least standings wise. Like right now they have 22 points and they have 17 games played, which is less than a lot, and they're 4th in the Metro. So like they're not
they're 4th
far out.
Yeah, they're getting great goaltending, I think. Like, what's his name?
Kemper?
No, the other guy,
Lindgren?
Charlie Lindgren. I think he's in the net for them quite a bit. He's been very good.
Sorry, who?
Charlie Lindgren.
No way.
Yeah.
You would know him.
I would know him.
Yeah, that Charlie Lindgren. He's a Washington Capital, and he's doing
him.
pretty good so
That's
far
cool.
this year. Yeah, it was okay.
Washington is not a team I've checked in on a whole lot.
Yeah, no, I know that they're one of those teams where I'm like, oh yeah, this guy plays for that team. Oh, this guy's still there, right? Like I forgot about Tom Wilson, which I guess is a weird thing to say considering how much he's like, don't forget I exist.
Yeah, he kind of does that with everything he does on the ice. It's just like, remember me? Hi, I'm Tom Wilson. But he, at the same time, it's just like it leaves a forgettable team identity, I guess. It's not one that you're just like, oh boy, I can't wait to see that next Washington Capitals game.
Yeah. It's me. Hi, I'm Tom Wilson. It's me. Yeah. How about that for a 2023 reference? I'm sorry. This household has very quickly become a Taylor Swift household, not from me, but it's happened. It's taken over the cult has taken over my house. And I don't know how I feel about it. I mean,
there's worse cults.
That is extremely true. Have you seen
Scientology?
Well, that, but also you don't want to say that too loud. But there's a documentary on Netflix about the Twin Flames cult. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like this. It's crazy. It's crazy. You got to see it. It's like a cult where people join up to find who their like true soulmate is.
Oh, I think I've heard.
And they like
this,
force you to be together. Like you have no other option. It's like if it doesn't work, you have to like shunt all your feelings into your guts and just keep trying. And like these people charge like, I think it's like thousands of dollars to like be part of this program. And they're like, and the guy who runs it thinks he's Jesus. It's crazy. And they still exist. They haven't been shut down. There's nothing. They still exist. It's crazy. You got to watch it.
Really, funny note on Scientology. So the leader of Scientology, David Miscavige, is actually a distant cousin of mine. And that's not a joke.
Well, you're fired.
Oh no!
That's what I said to be quiet about Scientology.
But I am. It's crazy.
We're dangerously close to getting assassinated. But do you know what happened to his wife?
No, he's not a cousin I keep in contact with.
Well, clearly nobody's keeping in contact with her.
But he is related to me, which is pretty crazy.
It's episode 1.
I know.
We're gonna. Well, I mean, if I disappear off the face of the planet, you know what happened to me.
Yeah, it's all my fault, just like the audio.
That's true. Yeah, everything's AJ's fault all the time. I like that rule.
It's fine.
Moving forward, I think that's a good rule to have. AJ's,
especially because half of it is probably my fault, anyways.
It's true. It's true. Well, AJ, unless you've picked up on any questions that you think would be worth answering before we sign off, I think that's about a good time to call it a day on
Brian had
episode 1.
mentioned earlier, and I wanted to wait till the end because Brian's not that important, that he wanted some Marco Rossi love, but I guess we got that in earlier, now that I think about it. But we should mention your Fanatics code.
Oh, my goodness. I forgot to do that right off the top.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you had so many potential segues to do it.
I did. We'll chat about this later and do better. I'll do better next time. But yeah. So as always, one of the sponsors of the show is Fanatics. So thank you very much for being a part of that. To my brand manager over there, I suppose. But you can scan the QR code on the bottom left side of the screen, and it will take you to the NHL site for Fanatics. And I get a little bit of a kickback when you buy stuff from there. And they're on their Cyber Monday deal today. Yep. And you said 30%
30% off. Yeah.
Yeah. So
with code CyberMon.
And yeah. So feel free to pick some stuff up on Fanatics. I don't know if you can get this jersey from them anymore, but maybe you can. I don't know. This is my sales technique, right? Like, so pathetic and sad that people just go, screw it, and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing like waiting until the end of the show to just get those sales in.
Well, I'll write a big note to myself right at the top of my home screen here that says,
Fanatics.
Look at the damn, Fanatics. Read your sponsor stuff. Dumb.
Get the monies.
Yeah, get that money. But it's episode 1, so everything's forgiven except AJ off the top, I would say.
Yeah.
Well,
I did a horrible job.
Yeah, well, we'll survive. Episode 2 will be twice as good, I think. I hope.
Let's hope.
Unless I get assassinated.
3 times as good, and then episode 4 won't happen because he'll have been assassinated.
I've always wanted to be assassinated.
I think it'd be an interesting
way
to go.
Some of the most impressive and cool people in history have been assassinated.
Yeah, like if that happens, you'll definitely be remembered beside like JFK.
Yeah, like, and yeah, some of the most awesome people, right? Like, there's a lot of them. I mean, we could run down the list, but that could get controversial real quick. But anyway, on that topic, I guess we can call it a night. Unless there's anything that is on your mind that you would like to
go, Leafs go.
Well, no.
Go Habs go, I guess. Go Habs go. Try to make the playoffs, and if you don't,
draft Artem Levchinov.
Also, you're welcome, Brian. I see your comment
because I don't trust you with it anymore.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you very much, Isabel. By the way, you will not have a problem with either of us saying anything bad about Lane Hutson, but you didn't specify. You didn't specify this which Hudson specifically.
Oh, is that what we're doing before we end this, or should we save this for next week?
I mean, we could do a 15-second rundown of Cole Hudson because it's about
He's kind of like his brother, but not.
Yeah, exactly. He's similar, but not his brother. Anyway, on that note, we can call it a night. Thank you, Sam, for coming along. I hope you had fun.
Thank you, Will, for having me. I did have fun.
If you had fun, I hope you come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll stay in touch.
See you guys next week.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much, Sam. It was lovely. AJ, we got there together.
We'll get better. We'll get better.
You know what to do from here. Thank you to both of you for your help, and welcome back to myself. Right?
Yeah, welcome back, Will.
Yeah. On that note, we'll call it a night. Bye.